Shine on me. Shine on me. When the darkness comes like the rays of the sun, shine on me.
So Jerry, what's your story?
Well, I was born in East LA, but actually it was Norwalk, which is kind of 10, 20 miles east of East LA. So it's kind of like the suburbs. And my father, he was G.I. Joe, and he went to Korea twice. And then my mother was Rosie the Riveter, because she worked with Boeing and making riveting airplanes during the time of those kind of war times. But then after that, the government or the nation said, okay, the war is over, go home, establish homes like suburbs. So I lived in a suburb. And what I did at first is when I was a child, as early as I can remember, I started riding my tricycle around the block. Around the block. And then one time my wheel was squeaking, and this one man said, hey, come here. And he put my tricycle in his shop, and he put little drops of oil on it. And I started crying because I was so touched, that he would help me. And then I kept riding around the block, and I used to use the big wheel, which you can slip the wheel and just peel out, or you can slide, and then the cracks in the sidewalk, tip, and then all this thing. And then at the kindergarten I was at, they had tricycles, but they were industrial tricycles, and all the kids during recess would want to ride it. So there's competition for the nice tricycle, and you felt so good riding around that tricycle. And then and I was a good student at the time. I learned my ABCs and my 1, 2, 3s, and I would get a star on my forehead. And so I really enjoyed learning. And then a family tragedy happened when I was 12, and I can't even describe it, so I have to skip that for later.
Sure.
But anyway, what I did is it made me have to move around from different relatives and different people. And what I really wanted was just my own garden with a fence and a little shelter, so I could have my bird friends, and then we can grow gardens and grow food for people. And I've done some of that before, but over the years I slipped through somehow, and I couldn't establish that place. So what I've learned is through a lot of stress, and to the point where I almost thought about giving up, right before I'm saying the story. But you have to figure out a way to go on. So from a lifelong of struggle, searching and traveling, I discovered a way to do it. With bicycling, I travel with my bicycle. And
Is this it right here?
Well, this is my latest one. I've had many bicycles
cool.
in the past, but I just travel with my bicycle, and I seek the shade of a tree, the green grass. Sometimes butterflies or other bugs come around, and I marvel at how beautiful they are. So then, and I sat in a pasture one time when I was about 13 or 14, and I was really distraught about what had happened to me. But I looked at the blades of grass. See, it's hard to even say this straight, but without crying. But I saw blades of grass, and I saw ladybugs crawling on them, and spiders. And it reminded me of Horton Hears a.
Oh, yeah, Horton Hears a Who, yeah.
And I thought, this is all life happening all around, and the blue sky, the clouds, the trees, the meadow, and I felt a little bit relieved that my I don't have a mother now, but the earth is our mother.
Yeah.
So that's the only way I can cope, is to imagine the earth as the mother I got left.
Mm-hmm.
And then but then I started noticing people were impacting the earth in ways that weren't good, like paving over these meadows, these little patches of life, the web of life. And so I thought, well, what can I do to stay with that feeling that, okay, the earth is my mother, I feel like at home. And it was really sad, because I started studying biology in college, and I study evolution, but also extinction. And what's sad, what's happening now is this is the time of the 6th great mass extinction that they say a lot of species are becoming extinct, like butterflies and bees and all these things. And so it hurts me because it's almost like the same way that my mother was affected. So I have to, overcome that pain, and say, well, what can I do to help? So to make a long story short, since I finally, after all these years, dropped into Tumalo, they have wonderful like water resources for my birds, and there's shade here, and there's community here, and what I want to do is start a program, like a nonprofit, also information, and there's a land for lease here. I'm going to ask the owner if I can establish a butterfly garden, and all we have to do is put a lot of mulch on the ground, pretty deep because it's paved, and then irrigate it a little bit, and there's irrigation access here, and then grow butterfly plants. Because there's a whole movement based on providing butterfly plants along the way for their migration route, and then I'm not even gonna. I really have nothing to. I would like to, sell products that like imagination products and things like that. But also we're gonna have butterfly plants that we can give to people, and maybe people will help me do this. But I'm seeking a place, and maybe if it's not here, it could be over there or somewhere else. But I want to live somewhere so I can finally relax, take care of myself, and take care of my birdies because they're my friends, and put a security fence around them so I don't have to worry about them. And then I can do other things, and I can actually heal myself and progress with life in the community. And I always want to be aware if I'm doing something strange, to the community to tell me, give me feedback so I can, not make people worry about me. And then, but really, the story really goes on, but I'm gonna
awesome.
I'm gonna tell in different ways. So what I want to say is, I almost gave up, but you have to maybe be lucky enough to hear philosophies of not giving up, and they're all over the world. And before I told my story, I was really worried. I thought, how can I continue this? But now I feel refreshed by talking to the community and relaxing a little bit with my birds. And as the time goes on, I would like to tell you more of the stories.
Yeah, awesome. So Jerry, if one thing, what would you, if you could give some advice to people nowadays getting raised kind of in this concrete world, what would you give them?
Well, what I did is a technique, because I appear as a homeless person, and in a way I really am. I'm like a motherless child, and it hurts. But there's a lot of, it's hard to talk without crying, but there's also a lot of other refugees in the world. And so we have something in common. But what we want is access. Every time I'm told no, I think, well, why, like the one politician, he was a Kennedy, and he said, so people say like, no, like you can't do this, but he says, why not? So if you think that, but you want to be appropriate, you want the community to accept the access that we can imagine in the future, for future generations. So I kind of lost my train of thought, but okay, one technique I've used is, since I've been an anti-war protester for many years, the police would sometimes, crack down on me and really beat me hard and throw me in jail. So I started to run for political office in any place I was at, because I travel a lot. I learned the local laws and the history, and then I run for office. And that way the police know that I'm not being a nuisance or causing problems. Also, if you ever win an election, like a mayor, you become the supervisor of the police. So if that ever happened in any town I was in, I can say, I got all these ideas, but don't overreact and beat me before I have time to explain like what it is. It's like a positive thing. And so that's one technique. And I was just thinking about it now, because I listen to news all the time, and you keep hearing this news like, oh, the world is being, the ecology is being destroyed. So we have to act. And you even though you're shy or whatever, run for office, local office. Find out. There's all kinds of positions you can run for. Don't be afraid to not get any votes or to lose. if you stick with it, maybe you might win. But the platform is more important than winning the whole office. And if you look at history, there's many people who used to actually run and then resign after they won, because that's because you don't want to be controlling everything. You just want to talk about like what you can do to help. And one of the things that's going to be interesting, that's a real challenge for all of us here, is that there's going to be an eclipse in August. And they're saying that we have to be ready for an influx of thousands of people. And that's going to be amazing, because what are we all going to do about it? We have to meet and talk about it. And then after it's over, we are going to be affected by the influx of all these visitors. So if we can show them, that we also have, visions for community, and they'll see our communities as they pass through. And then that's going to be a great effect. So
Yeah.
So I think if you want to do something, run for office, create your own political party. My political party is called the Bicycle Garden Party. And what it is we like to bicycle, we like to garden, and we like to party, which means having fun, but also running for elections in any way you possibly can. And then I think if someone's having difficulty, they might say, hey, well, that's a way I can tell my story. Because when you're a candidate, you tell your story.
Yeah.
Like, why am I running? People want to know. And then reporters will describe it. And if you make a special story, that's why I'm pleased to meet you, because it gives you like an outlet for your story, and then you'll feel relieved. You won't feel like you're so isolated alone. And so yeah, please.
Well, you're not alone, Jerry.
Thank you,
Jerry. What are the name of the girls? Can I take a picture of them?
What I do is I've researched birds because they're related to dinosaurs. So I read books about birds and history, and they say don't name your birds.
Oh.
And they also say don't tell people how much you love them. But I don't know why they said that. It's always puzzled me, because I love to tell people how I love my birds, and I have many nicknames. Like I usually call them Good Ducky, because it's like a simple kind of thing I can say over and over again, and they'll understand. So I say Good Ducky, they say Good Chickie, but he's a Drake, so a lot of people have named him like Mr. Quackers or Drake, or and then my other hens, they're younger, they're just sweet ducks, but she's actually a Golden 300, and those are blue runner ducks.
Beautiful.
And we used to have 16 when we first started, like 6 years ago, and because of the journey and the travel, I never could secure them well enough, even though I worked for other farmers and stuff. So now we're completely solo, and the only place that we can settle down on is a place that has a security fence, that our obligations will be like outside into the community, not actually, I will work with the landlord, but it's got to be something that I love to do. And but what we're doing is we came here to Tumalo to enact that, and we're at risk because we don't know if the community will really accept us, and I have to hear feedback from people who maybe say this is not right. But then I did get a lot of positive feedback from other people, and that gives me hope that maybe there is a way that this can work out.
Yeah, awesome, Jerry.
Shine on me, shine on me.